All right, folks. It's Numbskull News time. Doing it live. I appreciate y'all being here, whoever is here. Sorry, I was trying to get ready. Should have got ready already, right? Well, we got big freaking news coming up. As the title says, the ACC death watch has begun. They're going to reach a settlement, apparently. Now, they haven't reached the settlement yet. No one's signed on the dotted line yet. The lawsuits have not been rescinded just yet. That's, from what I understand, it's supposed to take place on Tuesday, so tomorrow. So I was going to make a video about it, but I'm like, might as well just do it live because all this crap is changing. There have been some reports. We're going to go through a few of them. But before I do, let me get to the non-college football topic right from the jump here. Holy crap. Usually I don't touch on the same off-topic topic more than once. Last live stream, I talked about Mr. McMahon coming back and not into the WWE fold, but his own, doing his own thing, making his own new company. But this was kind of a big deal coming out of the last, what was it, Elimination Chamber kind of thing. What do they call it? Premium Live Event, PLEs. Used to be the pay-per-views, but now it's a PLE. But wrestling, Mr. John Cena, Mr. You Can't See Me, has become a bad guy. Holy shit. Become a bad guy? That was extraordinary. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just saw the clip between The Rock. And The Rock these days, the final boss, he's pretty damn cool, man. I like The Rock being a bad guy. He's just a good villain. He's a good villain. He's better than any movie he does is when he's a villain in wrestling. That's his calling. But John Cena, always been 20 plus years of being this good guy, this baby face guy, kicks Cody Rhodes in the nutsack, beats the living crap out of him, all on behest of the bad guy Rock, meaning he's now a bad guy. It reminded me of when Hulk Hogan dropped the leg on Macho Man and became Hollywood Hogan, leader of the NWO. That has very reminiscent of that. As a matter of fact, when you have The Rock using a weight belt to beat Cody Rhodes, that's very reminiscent of Hollywood Hogan using the weight belt to whoop people. So I'm like, where are they going with this? I know they're trying to, because now it's going to be John Cena versus Cody Rhodes in WrestleMania. So how is that going to play out? Because that's the fun of wrestling these days. Just trying to guess where they're going. Or speculate on what you would like to see. What would I like to see? Because I'm an old school WCW guy. I loved the WCW. I loved NWO. I loved Goldberg. I loved all that stuff. I'm like, with them kind of paying homage to Hollywood Hogan, with Cena and The Rock, why not bring back the NWO? Do it at WrestleMania. All right, so you got Cena versus bad guy Cena versus the baby facing Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes gets screwed out of the title, but not by The Rock, but by Roman Reigns, who now takes back his heel persona, because now as the original tribal chief, everyone loves him, right? But his best work is also as a heel. So have them three come up, and not just any old NWO. No. Bring back the Wolf Pack. Woo! Dun, 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 dun. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the red and black. Even have Hogan come in there and legitimize it with them. The old guard version, almost like a main event Mafia from the old TNA days. Almost, a lot of reminiscent shit like that. I would love to see that. That would be brilliant. Don't know if that's going to happen, but I think if they want to take it to a next level, especially for the last year of John Cena, do it with the Wolfpack. That's all I'm saying. Make it super cool or something, And of course, Cena and The Rock are going to make every single show, so you got to bring in some young guys. Even if it's Roman Reigns with him, he's part-time too. So you have to have some people in that stable with you that's going to hold it down every show. Why not Braun Breaker? He's got the Steiner ties, right? Because he is a Steiner. Rick Steiner's son, Scott Steiner's nephew, who was also a member of the old school the original Wolfpack. So, see, everything can kind of fall in. Everything can just kind of fall in. I think it's brilliant. I think I'm brilliant, is what I'm saying. Anyway, let's get to this topic at hand, ACC. It has been reported in multiple places, so most likely true, that the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, are going to reach a settlement, and they're going to drop their lawsuits. Part of the settlement, FSU, Clemson, maybe Miami, maybe UNC, gets more money. They set it up to where they can get more money to stay there a little bit longer. In 2030, here's the big part. The exit fee is supposed to be, what has been reported, less than $100 million to get out at that time. Holy shit. As a matter of fact, On3 has reported that after that settlement, if it's all signed, sealed, and delivered tomorrow, the exit fee could be $200 million at that point. Which you're thinking, hold on, 5 years, $200 million. That might be worth it for Florida State and Clemson to just pay that shit and get right the hell out of there. I will say slow up on that talk, though. Slow up on that talk. Remember, always look to the past when you want to look to the future. All right, this is what I do. It doesn't always work. It's not always correct. Sometimes the future is something totally new. But more oftentimes than not, life and history oftentimes just kind of repeat. Maybe a few new ideas, a few new glossings over, but by and large, history repeats. It's kind of like a Hollywood remake, like you had The Omen in the 70s and they remade The Omen in like 09 or 2010. So it lives again, right? The movie Titanic, that's been remade over and over again. Star is Born, remade over and over again. So as we look to the past, look to Texas and OU. Now, when they initially announced that they were going to leave the Big 12, $80 million apiece, they could have left right off the jump for $80 million apiece. Keep in mind, Florida State and Clemson are not the brands that Texas and OU are. They got a lot of money. I'm not saying they don't. I'm not saying they don't have access to a lot of money. They do. Florida State and Clemson are big time. But they're not Texas and OU. Texas and OU could have wrote a check right then. Got right the hell out of there. Did they do that? They didn't. And that was $80 million, not $200 million. So they stayed an additional, what was it? They stayed an additional 3 years, and they paid half of that to get out 1 year early. So they paid about $40 million to get out a year early. So they still stayed 3 years, which is only 2 years less than what Florida State and Clemson would have to stay just to pay under $100 million to get out. Even though these schools make a lot of money and they have a lot of money, they have a lot of access to a lot of money. It doesn't mean that they're going to just unass all this money when they can just sit back and wait for a little bit. They could just sit back and wait. And I have never bought that when Florida State and Clemson come available that nobody's interested. That's the biggest line of shit I have heard in all of realignment, outside of everybody is just got to have UNC. The Big Ten and the SEC have to have UNC. They have to have them so much they're willing to take NC State. And the ultimate dumb shit to me is the SEC can't wait to get Virginia. Oh, and they may be even willing to take Virginia Tech to get Virginia. No. If you watch this channel for any length of time, you know how I feel about this BS. The Big Ten is not going to expand to 24 teams. You got people going nuts with this shit now. You know, now that this shit has dropped. The fallout, just from the reporting of the settlement, 2030. People have gone crazy. They've lost their nuts. Why? Because for the last 6 months, everyone cooled their jets on a lot of the realignment talk. Now, everyone's ejaculating their opinions all over the internet, all over live streams, everywhere. All of a sudden, the Big Ten are going to 24, maybe more. No, they're not. The SEC, they're going to get to 20, they're 22, 24 teams. No, they're not. What is ESPN Fox going to pay for? That's the question. Who are they willing to pay $100+ million a year to? Who has that value? Keep in mind, ESPN is going straight to consumer. That is happening. They will no longer be part of a cable or satellite package in a few years. It will be like, if you want ESPN, it's like getting a Netflix subscription. It's like getting Hulu. That's what ESPN will be. That'll be the only way to get ESPN. It'll be completely subscriber based. So based on that, who has the value at that point to get to ESPN, to SEC ESPN? Where's that value? The value is in viewership. Viewership equates to subscribers. There's a lot of people right now, the only reason they have a cable or satellite subscription is for what? Sports. When ESPN goes straight to consumer, how many people are cutting the cord? Because shit, we don't need it now. It's all on ESPN, ESPN Plus, or whatever the hell. The big time sports nuts out there, they're going to follow that. They may have that. They may have like a Peacock to get the Big Ten stuff. That's it. That's all they have. That's all they care about. But they're not going to care about getting YouTube TV or Hulu Live or any of that. Not when it's on ESPN. Think, folks. Because with YouTube TV or Hulu Live, carriage fees are still associated with that. But with ESPN Plus, there are no carriage fees. Why? Because they're not a part of a cable or satellite package. And if there's no carriage fees, what is the value of being in North Carolina? Like the ninth most populated state. And growing feverishly. But what's the value of that? If you can't pull out carriage fees because all your games are on streamers. None. And if there's all this political hoopla that you got to go through because NC State and the Board of Governors. Not only that, I don't believe at all that ESPN wants to pay a lot more teams a lot more money to put them in the SEC. I don't believe Fox wants to pay a hell of a lot more teams a hell of a lot more money to put them in the Big Ten. No. Not when you can see teams go to the Big 12 for a lot less. And it's shared costs between ESPN and Fox. What the fuck are people thinking about? It doesn't make sense to me with UNC. I could be very wrong. And if I am, and I've been beating this drum for a while, but if I am very wrong about UNC, of course, I will make a video. I will take the biggest L of all time. And that's fine. That's fine. I'll be willing to do it. I have put myself on the, and I don't have integrity. I don't have integrity. I don't have any sources. I'm not a professional. I'm a UPS driver. Okay. Look, if I'm wrong, I'm freaking wrong. All I can do is do my best, do my research, read those tea leaves. And what they're telling me is that the public narrative that has been beat out there to everybody, the propaganda that's been thrown out there about UNC for the last 2 years or year and a half or whatever, I'm sorry. I'm not seeing any evidence for it. None. All the reporting about streamers and how, and all you got to do is look at what's going on with the cable and satellite companies and that whole economic system. It's collapsing. And that's where the ACC network lives. That's where the Big Ten network lives. That's where the SEC network lives. All that shit, I'm sorry, it's also on death watch. Those three conferences make money off their networks. That is not sustainable long term. It's just not. Like it, love it, indifferent, don't give two shits. It's not sustainable. So every which way on why the SEC or Big Ten would take in teams, a lot of that is fading away. It's going to be based, most importantly, almost, 95% of the reason why teams are going to be allowed into the Big Ten or the SEC is going to be because of their viewership and the subscriptions they can bring to ESPN, which will be only a live streamer eventually, only a streaming service. Fox, I don't know what they're going to do. Is it going to be, they're going to finally get a streamer? Because they don't have one right now. They have like a joint venture, which has been delayed with ESPN and WBD. Are they going to have something of their own in 5 years? I don't know. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it if Fox does its own live thing eventually, their own streaming platform eventually. They got to. There's no choice. We'll see how that works out. All right. We got some comments, folks. Secret Agent, thank you for being here, sir. Texas Tech. Nice call on Flugard today. I think you have your finger on the pulse. Hey, I appreciate that. Most people don't agree with me. Flugard does not agree with me, especially when it comes to UNC. I get it. He's got sources that are telling him something different. And these are sources that have helped him break, I don't know about break. Well, he broke this stuff about Southern California, USC, going to the Big Ten. That was Flugar. He had that for anybody else. So he has sources that have given him big information before. I just still have, but just because they had something right once doesn't mean they're going to have something right twice. That's all I'm saying. Pike, thanks for being here, sir. Get ready for an insane amount of anonymous sources. Well, I don't have any. Anonymous, named, none of that. I have no sources. So I'm just an a-hole on YouTube talking out of my ass. To Master, what's up, man? There's a lot of Twitter lawyers who haven't learned their lesson. There's a few on Twitter. There's a community of lawyers. So, if you got hit by a big truck lately, oh, SMU, Boston College, and Wake Forest are so screwed. Not necessarily, Nate. And thank you for being here, Nate. Not necessarily. I've been an advocate for merger for a while. Don't look. My prediction in the next year or two, merger talk will ramp up. I'm like the lone person really talking about merger between Big 12 and ACC. But if there's a merger, that will include SMU, Boston College, and Wake Forest. And I will put another caveat on there. Merger really only has an option with the Big 12. It only has legs if it's only Florida State and Clemson that get out of there with a soft landing spot. That's the only way it can work. All right, because if Miami's gone, UNC's gone, then I don't know. I don't know. Because another thing that kind of throws a little bit of a wrench, and I say just a little bit, it's a little bit of a wrench into the merger talk is that it appears the Big 12 here pretty soon may land a private capital, not equity, but private capital partner pretty soon. And my thought was, if you're going to do a merger with the Big 12 and ACC, you probably need private capital, private equity to help bring that thing together. So I don't know what that means, unless merger talk or big time merger reporting may start happening a lot sooner. I don't know. But we'll see what happens. But chances are they may be screwed there, Nate, but maybe not. There's always some hope out there. Always a little hope. Secret agent, what about games on Fox? Well, there'll still be games on Fox, but here's the problem. That covers the Big 10. That covers some Big 12. Maybe, some other conferences out there, but not ACC, not the SEC. Doesn't help them. Doesn't get them money. That's what I'm saying with Fox. They're going to have to do something because everyone, and I'm quoting guys like like CNBC or big time entertainment business reporters, legit people, not just that cover business of sports like Bob O'Brien, but others out there that people are, what's been said, networks are trying to find an off-ramp out of the cable and satellite business, the linear TV business. They're trying to get out of that because the future will be streaming. And I know there's a story out there. Hey, streamers have lost a lot of money. Of course, they've lost a lot of money right up front. It's the upfront cost of content. Netflix has spent billions, and I do mean billions of dollars. Man, as far as like their debt, I mean, it may be over $100 billion of debt Netflix has because they had to build original content. You can't license everything like they did before. It's too expensive to license all that. Like the license Friends is outrageously expensive every year to pay that licensing fee. You would rather own it, but is I don't remember who owns that. It might be WBD that owns them. So like they would be like a Max kind of thing anyway. But the licensing cost, because for years Netflix had the sole rights to Friends, and it was the biggest show on Netflix, even years after it ended. And I'm talking just a few years ago, like in 2020, 2019. It was like the most watched show on Netflix every year. Insane. So they paid out the asshole in licensing fees. So what did they do? They started building all types of original content, which is incredibly expensive. We're talking movies, talking documentaries, TV shows, dramas, comedies, whatever. Um, plus all the stand-up comedy. I mean, just hundreds of millions of dollars spent on just stand-up. So billions of dollars worth of content. You got to have original content, or you're screwed in streaming. Test subject 38. Only way Big Ten goes over 20 is if Notre Dame joins and drags teams with them. It might get to 22. My speculation, and this is just mine, the Big Ten does not do anything without Notre Dame. People are like, the biggest next domino is UNC. I've heard that line of bullshit. No, it's not. Notre Dame for the Big Ten. Notre Dame. That's the one. I think they will stay at 18 for as long as it takes. I mean, if you're the Big Ten, you're not in any like, oh, they're going to get into Florida. They don't give a shit. They make the most money out of any conference, including the SEC. They don't give two flaccid shits about getting the 22, 24 teams going anywhere north of where they are right now at 18. They are just fine with 18, and they will stay at 18 unless Notre Dame says, let's go. And then what are they going to do? They're going to tell Notre Dame, pick one. We're going to you know what? You can pick who you want to come with you. Maybe at that time, they'll want Miami. Maybe at that time, they'll want Miami. But if Notre Dame says, no, we want Stanford to come with us, then it will be Stanford. Now, if Notre Dame says, okay, let's go with Miami, then it will be Miami. And I think at that point, realignment for the Big Ten stops at 20, and they will never go north of 20 because they will never have to. Think about it. Let's just say it's Miami. You got Notre Dame, you got Miami, you got Ohio State, you got Michigan, you got Penn State, you got UNC, you got Oregon, you got 7 monsters. Not to mention Nebraska. I don't care that they haven't won anything in forever. They get outstanding ratings every single year. Wisconsin, pretty damn good ratings every single year. Washington, even on down years, still gets good ratings every year. UCLA, who haven't done shit in forever, still gets really good ratings. Top 20 ratings every single year, or at least top 25. But they got brands, a lot of them, that do really good for them. They don't give a shit. Why would they add a Virginia? Oh, the academics. This shit ain't about academics. Do you realize the Big Ten does research with more than just Big Ten schools? Notre Dame currently is not in the Big Ten. They are not in the Big Ten. In hockey, they're in the Big Ten in hockey, but they're not in the Big Ten where it counts academically. Or sorry, athletically. But academically, they do research with the Big Ten. Look the shit up. They already do research with the Big Ten. There's a research is done through that does they don't academics and research does not depend on your athletic conference. Get that shit out of your head. Get that shit out of your head. I don't. Long way of saying it. I don't see the Big Ten ever going north of 20. I think, and they'll only get to 20 if Notre Dame is number 19. That's my. I could be totally wrong and off base, but the money is so freaking sky high in the Big Ten and in the SEC. I don't see them adding too many more teams. I don't think there's too many more teams that have the proper viewership to get there. That's what I believe. Mike Sharp, what's up, dude? But yet you think they will pay $70 million plus to Big 12 teams in 2030. Nah, 2030 is the big consolidation of the P2, and they are taking the CFP with them. Okay. I mean, there's absolutely zero evidence of that, Mr. Sharp. There's no evidence of that. And the only reason I'm saying 70 plus million, I never said 70 plus. I said 60. But because that was based on an evaluation that the CVC had, which is a private equity firm, last summer of the Big 12. And their evaluation equates to, what was it? $5 billion, which is double the media rights value the Big 12 has right now. So if you double 31.7, what you get? I just rounded it down to 60. So there's evidence, not just from me. It's not what I think. This was reported what the valuation of the Big 12 was for a private equity firm. So that's grounded in. By the way, the Big 10 and the SEC are $60 million right now, which is double what the Big 12 gets. I'm saying the Big 12 is going to double, and then the Big 10 and the SEC are going to go well north of that. So this big consolidation of the P2, it's already happened. The Big Ten got USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. That looks like consolidation to me. The SEC got Texas and Oklahoma, plus a bunch of Big 12 teams before that. That looks like consolidation to me. They may very well get Florida State and Clemson. That's consolidation to me. So what are they going to take Kansas? They're going to take TCU? Look, this goes to this topic right here. And I got a big freaking problem with this amount of speculation. Nothing against Kansas, nothing against TCU or Texas Tech or anybody else. I've heard Arizona State could go to the Big Ten. I've heard Utah could go to the Big Ten. Folks, if they were going to go to the Big Ten, if they had the value of the Big Ten, if the Big Ten wanted them, they would have already taken them. They had their shot. Big Ten had their shot at Kansas, at TCU, at every Big 12 school, and they said no. The SEC had every opportunity to get any Big 12 school they wanted outside of, including Texas and Oklahoma. They could have took anyone they wanted. They could have took Oklahoma State. They could have taken West Virginia. They could have taken TCU. They could have taken Baylor. They could have taken Tech, Iowa State, Kansas or Kansas State, anybody. They had their choice of anybody they wanted, and they said no. Why did they say no? Because they don't have the value. Do you think ESPN wants any of those teams in the Big 12 to go to the SEC? They do not. They don't see the value. Not in the SEC. They see value of the Big 12. They don't see value of those teams going to the SEC. The value's not there. Nothing has changed in the last 2 or 3 years of any of these teams for this speculation. Oh, in 2030, here we go. the Big Ten and the SEC are going to load up and go to 24, 30 teams. You stop. What did Greg Sankey say just a few weeks ago on a podcast talking about a super league? I'm giving you a little time. I'm taking a drink of water. I'm giving you a little time to think about this shit. What did Greg Sankey say about joining 70 whatever teams into a super league? He said he's not going to lower himself to associate with all of that. They have to come up to his level. He's not coming down to their level. That's what he said. That was a direct shot at the Big 12 and the ACC. Do you think they're going to expand with any of those teams? Oh, maybe the biggest Big 12 teams. There's not the biggest Big 12 teams. Holy shit. Made me lose my cover. There's not this big gap. This is not the ACC where it's Florida State, Clemson, and Miami than everybody else. It isn't that. The big teams have already left. They're gone. A&M, long gone. Nebraska, long, long gone. Colorado left, devalued, and came back. But everybody in this bitch is on the same level. Maybe Cincinnati's on a lower level. Maybe UCF is on a lower level. Maybe Houston's on a lower level. BYU's not. But, all thought, well, BYU's a top brand. Kansas is a top brand. TCU is a top brand. And I'm a TCU guy. No, they're not. You know what these are? Pretty damn equal brands. Across the board, I've been talking about Big 12 parity. These are pretty damn equal, not just programs or athletic departments, but universities as a whole, they're pretty damn equal. This is what provides the parity of the Big 12, that nobody has this huge value more than anyone else. No one has all of this, what do you call it? Damn it. I hate it when I run out of words. But no one has shit. I want it. Now I don't have to go to another word because I can't think of the word I want. No, but no one has the advantages. Thank you, God Almighty. What the fuck? No one has advantages over each other. Not big ones. All right. Look at the SEC. There's a big whopping difference between Mississippi State and Alabama. Look at the Big Ten. There's a big world of difference between Rutgers and Ohio State. A lot of advantages. Money, recruiting, you name it. That does not exist in the Big 12. The biggest gap could be like maybe Kansas and Cincinnati. But how big of a gap is that really? Nowhere near as big as Mississippi State and Alabama, Mississippi State and Georgia. Nowhere near that gap. And this talk of, the SEC are going to grow with basketball. You kiss my nuts. They're not growing based off of basketball. Basketball for them is a cherry on top. They built what they got through football. And that's how it's going to be for the SEC. It is too late to grow in other ways. Not with expansion. If they want to grow with basketball, which they're right now doing a pretty good job, but the brands they currently have, the schools and the programs they currently have got to get better and infuse more cash into those programs to get better. And they have done that. And now they're becoming a real power, which is scary, a real power in college hoops. But that's the way they grow. not by adding, because they can add UConn right. The SEC can add new UConn right now. All this talk about, oh, they're going to get basketball brands. If that was the case, they would go get UConn right now, because that is the biggest basketball brand going today. A blue blood, what were they? Back-to-back champions, women's, men's. They rule college hoops, regardless of gender. They rule college hoops right now. Why wouldn't the SEC go grab them? Wouldn't be expensive. They could give them a fraction, not a full SEC share, a fraction of the share. $25 million a year. UConn would shit all over themselves if they were getting that, and they were a member of the SEC. They would jump on that in 2 seconds. Are they getting the invite from the SEC? No, they're not. Well, they're football. What is UNC's football? It ain't much better than UConn's. They don't got that much more viewership than UConn's. No. If the SEC is going to grow in football, or sorry, basketball, they'll grow with what they already have. They're not adding for basketball. Yeah, Big 12 teams, they're in the Big 12. And there's even been talk, people who just don't know anything about TCU, not from the area, nothing. I am. TCU is fully on board with private equity or private capital in the Big 12. They're one of the teams yelling loudest for it. Why is that? Because there'll be a bigger commitment to the Big 12 if you go private capital. It's because they know there's no SEC invite anywhere in the future. There's no Big 10 invite anywhere in the future. They're not an AAU school. They're a good school. They're an expensive as hell school to get into. But they don't have the academic prowess for the Big 10. Nor do they have the football prowess for the SEC. They're a really good brand. They're a growing brand. They're in a great market. The biggest. Talk about North Carolina's growth pales in comparison to the growth of Texas. And DFW's right in the middle of that. One of the biggest markets in the country. It dwarfs any market in North Carolina. North Carolina's got 9 million people. How many people reside in the DFW Metroplex? I'm going to go ahead and Google it because I don't want to talk out of my ass on that one. Let's see. The DFW area in 2023, 6.6 million people. In one metroplex, damn near has the same population of North Carolina. Are you fucking kidding me? And that's in 2023, folks. Dallas County, 2.6 million, over 2.6 million. Tarrant County, where Fort Worth is, over 2.2 million people. Collin County, that's a surrounding county, has 1.2 million people. Denton County, the home of the UNT Mean Green, over 1 million people in population. If this shit's about anything other than football, TCU would have went to the SEC. UConn would be in the SEC or Big 10. But it ain't. It ain't. It's about football, people. It's about football. Oh, let's see her secret agent Fox Sports app. Yeah, I don't know if there is. I don't think there is one yet. They got to get on it. You got to get on it. To Master, Notre Dame wants a private school to follow them if they move to the Big Ten. Well, that could either be Miami or it could be Stanford. Could be to Master. Nate, by the year 2031, it will be AP3, Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12. That's it. Then the Pac-12 and the ACC will be mid-tier Frankenstein conferences. I think, well, also this hadn't been talked about yet, but if I'm the American, I'm worried. I'm worried because what are your biggest brands left? Tulane, Memphis, South Florida. Who else? UTSA is kind of moving on up. So I would be worried if I were them. Because you already lost 3 of your biggest brands to the Big 12. You may lose more to the ACC. Mike Sharp. Sorry, Nate. There will be only AP2 after 2030. Wrong again, Mr. Sharp. Wrong again. I'm not saying the Big 12 is of equal value to the Big 10 and the SEC. No, that is wrong. But what happened to the Pac-12? They lost teams. Now they've reconstituted teams, and they have lost their autonomous status. That's the future of the ACC now. So power schools have autonomy. They have that seat at the autonomous table. The Big 12 will have that seat, sir. Nate, Mike, it will be P2.5 because Big 12 will be above ACC, Pac-12, but below P2. Below P2 in money. And remember what the Big 12 kind of helps with the Big 10 and the SEC. You see, they are still worried about antitrust lawsuits. This is why they have lawyers there when they talk. So there's no collusion. Look, there's no collusion. We got lawyers. Look, there can't be collusion if we got lawyers. So what is the Big 12 being an autonomous conference and a power conference? Well, they're going to keep them in the fold. They say, look, we're not colluding. Look, Big 12's right there. Look, don't antitrust us. We got the Big 12 right there. It's kind of a shield for that. So that's why they'll be there. And not to mention their media partners are also the Big 12 media partners. So there's interest with that as well. So secret agent, why do these Big 10 SEC P2 people think that fans of 16 plus Big 12 teams and others will continue have any interest in the P2? That's cutting off a lot of money. So no. Yeah, there will be no breakaway, secret agent. You're right about that. The Big 10 and the SEC, I'm sorry, guys. Yes, you're fans of the 2 most powerful conferences in all of college sports. True. But they imagine if they did break away. We're going to break away. We're going to have the NCAA. We're going to create our own thing. Brr. Okay. So what you want to do is not have, because the NCAA does a hell of a lot more than football or basketball. Well, let's just talk about basketball. Okay, no NCAA tournament for you? Well, that sucks. You're going to lose a lot of money out of that. No baseball World Series. No nationals and wrestling or Olympic sports, track and field, none of that. All of a sudden, your athletic department loses a shit ton as far as actually playing against the best of the best of the best in all the other sports, non-revenue sports and things such as that, of that nature. No, they're not going to do that. Plus, like I said, antitrust lawsuits out the asshole. They're not going to do that. But they've already shown their cards. So if the reporting is correct, which I still don't know about that reporting, but if the reporting is correct that the Big 10 and the SEC have threatened that before, they've shown their cards. They made sure to say, hey, look, we're not colluding. That tells you they're worried about antitrust lawsuits, and they're not going to do that. The Big 12 needs to get a third network to take some of their inventory. Well, they already did that, Nate. Like NBC, if NBC kept Notre Dame and also had the Big 12, they'd likely create a schedule agreement between the Big 12 and Notre Dame. Well, they have that with the WBD, sir. Because ESPN took some of the stuff that was going to be on ESPN Plus, some of the games that are going to be on ESPN Plus, and licensed it to WBD. Now, if you're talking in the future, 2031, the TV deal there, yeah. I've heard some wankers talk about, well, Fox is not going to be in the Big 12. We'll see. I don't know how true that is, because they got involved with the Big 12 because they liked their basketball content. They wanted that basketball content. They have the basketball content. Plus, they've sold a lot of rights to the Big 10, to NBC and CBS. So to fill the gaps, they use the Big 12 to fill their gaps on FS1 and also on Big Fox. So I don't see them cutting ties with the Big 12 in the future. Plus, you might be able to sell directly to WBD in the future as well. So yeah, there will be at least three partners for the Big 12. There currently are technically three partners right now, Nate. All right, big swinger. Nate, NBC has the Big 10. They do. Arturo Balderas, they already have by winning back-to-back CFP titles with Michigan and OSU. Not sure what you're talking about. Not sure who you were talking to there, Arturo, but thank you for being here. Hidden Hawaiian, nice to see you doing live streams again. Hey, I appreciate that. I needed to get off my ass and do it, to tell you the truth. Nate, Big 10 will grab Notre Dame plus any team Notre Dame desires. Stanford makes most sense in terms of travel with other four West Coast teams. Rivalry with Notre Dame, market research, blah, 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 blah. Stanford, yeah, makes a lot of sense there, Nate. The question is, will Notre Dame ever join a conference? From what we've seen, they won't. They have all the CFP access they'll ever need. They're getting their own paycheck out of the CFP every year. In 2026, it's not going to be based on how many teams you get in or what. It's already set in stone. All right. So the Big 10 and the SEC are going to make, what, $23 million apiece, $24 million apiece. The ACC, until they lose their big teams, will make 13. Big 12 makes 12, and I think Notre Dame itself is going to make somewhere between 16 to 17 million, maybe 18 million, somewhere in that neighborhood a year out of the CFP. That'll be regardless of whether they make the CFP or not. So where's the incentive for them to join the Big 10? They make a lot of money out of the NBC, plus the side bonus money they make out of the ACC. So there's really no reason for them to leave or leave independence, I should say. Hidden Hawaiian. Big 12 could have some sleeping giants because of schools, I guess, like UCF and Arizona State having the largest enrollments in the country. They do. Yeah, I do agree with they do have some sleeping giants in there, Hidden Hawaiian. Absolutely. Test subject 38, academics is important to the Big 10. The BTAA made almost $18 billion last year. That is more important than sports to many of the presidents. If they can get more and better schools in the BTAA, they will. What does that have to do with an athletic conference test subject? Think about that. I understand what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing that, you know, being AAU, being a big time research facility is very important for entrance even into an athletic conference with the Big 10. I'm not saying that that's inaccurate. I'm saying that if the Big 10 could have gotten Oklahoma, who is not an AAU accredited school, they would have taken them. They would have taken them. If Texas was not AAU, they would have taken them. Now, Texas is AAU, but if they were not, but everything else remained the same with Texas, they would have. They would say, hey, don't worry about it. Oklahoma will help you get that AAU accreditation. I've heard the Big Ten has some pull in that. So I'm not disagreeing with you, test subject. I'm just saying. Stormy cyclone. What's up? Lots of speculation. I want more details before I make or pass judgments. Me too. This is why I have not made a video really on this. I'm just doing a live stream, kind of just plowing through some stuff. Letting, kind of going through comments, letting everyone do their little comment thing, and then I'll make once we get some real finalized details, then I'll kind of jump on board with that a little bit more. Mike Sharp, love the rant as always. Well, I appreciate that, Mike Sharp. It was a little bit ranty, I guess. It happens. Ryan Willie, what's up, dude? Everything will start happening in 2026. Could be. Seems like a magical year, 2026. Magical year. Arturo Balderos, chat must have deleted my previous comment. I had posted that the Big Ten would make a major statement if they were to add Notre Dame. The big three of the ACC, Florida State, Miami, Clemson, is somehow poach. All right. Maybe I just missed your... No, it's not there. I don't know what happened to your comment there, Arturo. It's crazy. Crazy! Arturo Balderos. Both Texas schools from the SEC. And somehow poach. Okay. The continuation threw me there. Both Texas schools. Well, yeah, that'd be worth a major statement if they got Notre Dame or all three of those from the ACC, or somehow poached to both Texas schools from the SEC. Yeah, that'd be pretty huge there. Pretty huge, Arturo. Although I would say those Texas schools would not move together. They don't like each other much. They don't like each other too much. Stormy cyclone. I think Immaculate might be right. The private equity / capital, if it happens, may be used to help teams get out of the ACC. That's been the thought for a while. I know Florida State's been looking into it if they had to pay an ass ton of money. But they may not do that. They may just hold off for 4 or 5 years if it's going to be like, an $80 million exit fee out of the ACC and save $120 million. Why not? What's a couple more years? I mean, think about it. Even if they paid, let's say it was $200 million. Let's say they paid it this year. What's the earliest they're going to get out? Because you got to line it up with what the SEC wants as well, if it's the SEC, or the Big Ten, if what the Big Ten wants, right? Well, let's say it might take a couple of years. So what's 3 more years to save $120 million? These are rich schools, but they're not stupid. They didn't get rich by accident. Stormy cyclone. Okay, on that note, I'm going to shut down the live stream. Dude, y'all have been awesome. Look at all these comments. Very successful, at least for my micro channel. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate every single person that's been in here. And you don't have to agree with everything I say. You can put in a comment. I think you're wrong, numbskull. I think you're a dumbass, numbskull. And it's perfectly fine. We can have a little back and forth. Anyway, we'll be doing more live streams. So see you then. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.